the most famous person to attend Northern Kentucky University? Well, I suppose the answer to that question might be a matter of opinion, but it'd be hard to find anybody from NKU more famous than actor George Clooney. And you might not know that there are other members of the Clooney family who are also famous. This includes George's father, Nick, who's a well-known newscaster and journalist. But before either of them were well-known, there was Nick's sister, George's aunt, Rosemary Clooney. Today, I'm going to tell you about Rosemary Clooney, and to get a better idea about her, I'm going to tell you about her childhood, her initial rise to fame, her downfall, and her comeback. I have read numerous articles and books about Rosemary Clooney. We'll begin by looking at Rosemary Clooney's challenging childhood. By any standards, she had a difficult childhood. She was born May 23, 1928 in Maysville, Kentucky, followed by her two younger siblings, Nick and Betty. And Rosemary, from a very young age, loved to sing, explains Nick Clooney in his July 5, 2002 Cincinnati Post article, Maysville Helped Rosemary to Bloom. And in fact, Rosemary's first public singing experience came at St. Patrick's Church in Maysville. Rosemary's parents were Andy and Frances Clooney, and this is described in the Rosemary Clooney webpage biography. Rosemary's father was an alcoholic, and her mother traveled constantly as part of her job as an owner of some dress shops. Other relatives actually took turns raising Rosemary and her siblings, and eventually her parents did divorce. Then, when Rosemary was 13, her mother remarried and moved to California. Her mother took Nick with her, but she left Rosemary and Betty and her dad behind. And according to Richard Savaro in the New York Times in July 1st, 2002, they moved to Cincinnati when Rosemary was just 14 years old, her dad taking a job at a defense plant. But then at the end of World War II, the dad left, leaving Rosemary and Betty to fend for themselves. In Rosemary Clooney's 1997 book, This for Remembrance, she talks about how Betty and she had to actually collect soda bottles for the deposit money and then use that to buy food. But then Rosemary and Betty auditioned to sing for Cincinnati radio station WLW. They got the job for $20 a week and became known as the Clooney Sisters. In this photo, Rosemary is standing behind Betty. Another big event came a couple years later when bandleader Tony Pastor heard them sing on the radio. This according to Rosemary Clooney's 1999 book, Girl Singer. Tony Pastor hired them to sing in his band, and Rosemary wrote of that event, Betty and I had never been out of our tiny tri-state area. Within a year, we'd gone from schoolgirls in knee socks to big band singers in nylons. They toured with Tony for nearly 2 years, and then Betty returned to Cincinnati. Meanwhile, Rosemary moved to New York to pursue her fame, and she was still just 21 years old. Next, we'll take a look at her rise to stardom as a singer, radio host, movie actress, and TV host. Rosemary Clooney gained great success in a short period of time. Her move to New York was well-timed, she explained in her book, This for Remembrance. And the reason for that is female singers were in big demand, and in 1949, she signed a contract with Columbia Records. Her first successful song was a song entitled Come On to My House. She actually hated the song, but it was a big hit and went gold. Around this time, she also became known publicly as Rosie, according to the Rosemary Clooney webpage biography. Next, she became a radio host. She co-hosted a CBS morning music variety show, and she did this with legendary singer Bing Crosby. Another big event came in 1953 when she made the cover of Time magazine. Next, Rosie became a Hollywood actress. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer June 30th, 2002 article, singer legend Clooney dies. Her first big role came in 1954 in the movie White Christmas. It was a big musical. It also starred Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, and it was the top film of 1954. Here's a clip from White Christmas.
If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
Other films followed, including Here Come the Girls, which also starred Bob Hope, and a movie called Red Garters, which was a Broadway-style musical. Then, in 1956, she got her own TV show, says Richard Savaro in his article. It was called The Rosemary Clooney Show, and it appeared on more than 100 TV stations nationwide. However, it only lasted 1 year. Meanwhile, behind the stardom that she had attained, personal pressures were taking a toll on her. Rosemary Clooney's fast-paced career was just one cause of her downfall. Early on, as she moved to New York, she had dated an actor and dancer named Dante DePao, says Savaro in his article. However, she abruptly broke up with DePao and married actor Jose Ferrer in 1953. She and Jose Ferrer had their first child in 1955, and the family grew quickly. She and Ferrer had many turbulent years, and they eventually divorced in 1967. During this time, she also became addicted to tranquilizers and sleeping pills. Then came a tragic event that really was her tipping point, according to Rosemary Clooney in her book, Girl Singer. She had become friends with politician Robert Kennedy, and Kennedy was running for president in 1968. Rosemary attended a campaign event that he was having on June the 5th, 1968 in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Kennedy was shot and killed at the event, and Rosemary was just a few yards away from him when it happened. As a result of this, she suffered a mental collapse and spent a month in a psychiatric ward in a hospital. In her autobiography, Girl Singer, she writes about it this way. The clinical term was drug-induced psychosis. Nick's term, just as accurate but prettier, was overload and disconnect. My kids said it the most clearly. Mama went nuts. Next, we'll look at her comeback. Rosemary still had much success in her future. Bing Crosby asked her to join him in his 50th anniversary tour in 1976. It was a very successful tour and led to additional tours with Crosby and others. She describes it this way in the book Girl Singer. Bing's invitation to work with him was a breakthrough, both personal and professional. Once I appeared with him, the world began to open up to me again. Then, soon after that, she actually ran into Dante DePao. This is according to the Rosemary Clooney webpage biography. This is the guy that she had broke up with in 1953, more than 20 years earlier. And what happened is they actually saw each other from their cars when they happened to be at the same intersection in Beverly Hills. Their romance rekindled, and in fact later, they did get married. Sadly, Rosemary's sister Betty died in 1976 of a brain aneurysm. Rosemary honored her by creating the Betty Clooney Center, which is in Long Beach, California, and it's a center that provides services to young adults who have suffered a brain injury. In 1977, Rosemary signed with the Concord Jazz record label, where she made 24 albums in 21 years and received multiple Grammy nominations. Then in 1991, she had a concert at the legendary Carnegie Hall. Then, in 1994, she appeared on TV with her nephew, George Clooney. This was on his TV show, ER. In the show, Rosemary portrayed an Alzheimer's patient, and she, in fact, earned an Emmy nomination for the appearance. In 2000, Rosemary had a concert appearance at the Riverbend Music Center in Cincinnati. And according to an article in the Cincinnati Enquirer, over 10,000 people attended, and the concert was shown on live TV. Miss Clooney threw a kiss to her hometown fans and exclaimed, "It's good to be home, let me tell you." Then on February the 28th, 2002, she received a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. Unfortunately, years of smoking cigarettes took a toll on Rosemary, and she died of lung cancer on June the 29th, 2002. Her funeral was held at St. Patrick's Church in Maysville, that same small church where she had made her first public singing appearance. Let's review. I have told you about Rosemary Clooney. I have told you about her childhood. I have told you about her initial rise to fame. I told you about her downfall. And we talked about her big comeback. I'd like to close with this quote from Rosemary in her book, Girl Singer. "Maybe the secret to life, of my life anyway, is learning to live with unresolved issues. Maybe there's only one way to do that. Not with an armored heart, but with an awakened heart."